Hello everyone, Joe from Central Jersey Conrail and Inscale, and welcome back. So this session we're going to be operating the SA-31 down into Freehold. We got some work to do over at the lumberyard, press stone, and the team track. But before we get started, I want to go over our last session together. Last session, if you remember, we ran the SA-37. So I got a lot of positive comments. I got a lot of suggestions. So before we get started operating this session, I want to go over everybody's recommendations. Okay, so first I got a lot of comments and questions about the throttle that I was using. I was actually using my iPhone with the Wi-Fi app, and as I indicated in the video, I really wasn't happy with doing switching operations with the phone. My finger was sliding on the surface, and I didn't feel I had enough control over the locomotive. And also, it was the clicking. Yeah, sorry about the clicking. I should have just turned the volume off on the phone, and then it would have been on silent. So, but in the future, I'm just going to stick with using either my DT400, or I'm going to use, when I get my UT4s, I'll use one of those, because for actually switching back and making a lot of maneuvers, I didn't like the phone at all. So William Arsenu, he recommended about the caboose. Yeah, if you notice, there was a lot of slack action. He called it slinky, and that was a good term for it. So yeah, I'm going to extra weight my cabooses, so this way it weighs everything down and you don't get that action back and forth. And so Bill also recommended, when you're doing your operations, think like a switchman. Think like you're standing at the switch stand and you want to do as little walking as possible. So this way, where the cars stop and where you cut your cars off. So that was a really good recommendation. So hopefully I can train myself to run a little smoother in that respect. So thanks, Bill. And Mike Simmons was talking about the caboose. So I backed down into the sand pit with the caboose to protect me at the crossing. And then when I had to pull back out, I had to leave the caboose on the main to spot the three empties in the plant, so I didn't trap the caboose in the plant. So what Mike was saying was think about putting some kind of escape or tail track to put that caboose inside the plant. So, but my issue with that was that Glidden didn't, it was just a single long track. I think it was somewhere in the vicinity, like 3/4 to a mile long, back down into the Clayton pit. So I'm kind of just maybe toying with the idea, maybe eliminating the idea of the caboose. So, or maybe I might just put in a track just to tuck that caboose in so I can make those spots there. So thanks, Mike. And so Sparky 107. So he was asking about clubs. Are clubs use this much paperwork? It seems like it's not that much fun. And he was also asking if this is the way I'm going to run the operations. So I do plan on having the continuous run because I'll have the 2 helix on each end and then that return loop underneath. So, the days that I don't feel like dealing with paperwork and doing switching maneuvers and stuff, I can just pull a train out of staging and let it go and enjoy it. That's what I like about this design that I came up with, is it has the best of both worlds. It has the best of operations and it has the best of just display running. So, so in that respect, that partially answers your question. As for the other part, I've never been involved in an organized major club that it was involved with operations. I was involved with N-Track, but we didn't focus on operations. We were just display running at shows. So I kind of really can't answer that question. So, and Greg Bernsky again commented. So thank you, Greg. I always appreciate your advice, as being a railroader. So it kind of helps me make it look a little more realistic. And I'm learning. So thanks. Okay, and so the last topic with Commander Sweeper. So Commander Sweeper was asking, how am I going to do my operating sessions here with guests? So as of right now, the plan is, but it's always open to change because I'm still a long way off to actually having guest operators. But what I plan on doing is getting a core group of people that I feel comfortable with and who also enjoy operations, who enjoy this type of switching and Form Ds and paperwork like that. So I want people who are like-minded with me when it comes to model railroading. And once I find those people through my social media contacts, through my N-Track days, I still keep in contact with a bunch of people through my N-Track, and anybody else that I may come across in the future, that's what I'm going to use to make my core group of operators. Again, I don't belong to a club or any kind of operations group or anything like that. And of course, you know, I'm not saying I'm not going to. If the opportunity arises, I'm definitely going to take it. But so that's how I'm going to get my core group of operators. The second thing for Commander Sweeper, if you want to do some kind of level of operations, what these videos that I'm doing here demonstrate to you is you don't have to have a core group. You can do a level of operations like this on your own. So what we've done here so far with the SA-39, the SA-37, now the SA-31, which you'll see in a little bit, is I've set the date, November 4th, 1988. I've got all the trains in position to make my moves, and then you know, Monday night I come down and I run the SA-39. Then I leave everything the way it is, and then I come back on, say, Saturday night and I run the SA-37. And then so on and so forth through your progression. So you kind of have to develop some kind of timetable or train order sequence sheet. And then you just go through step by step by step. And then once you're completed all those steps, the day is over. November 4th, 1988 is no longer, and you turn the calendar to November 5th, and then you go to your next day of operations, and you repeat the cycle all over. So that's kind of what I'm trying to show everybody, is you can still do realistic operations, but you don't have to have a big group of 5, 6, 10, 15, or whatever, how many people here to run those ops. So something to think about. If you have a small 4x8 layout or a room size layout like this, you could just plan your operations, and then, you know, don't stress, don't make a big deal of it. Just when you get the time, you go down and you run the one train, do the op session, fill out the paperwork, put it in a bin, and then come back the next day that you have available. So I hope that answers your question, Commander Sweeper, because you know, that's kind of what I want to show everybody. Okay, and last comment was from T. Nobles. He was also agreeing with Greg, and you know, thinking about making as small maneuvers as possible so to limit walking. So again, thanks T. Nobles. I appreciate the railroader insight from everybody just to help me, you know, fine-tune my operations. So before we get started operating, the last topic I want to go over with is, you know, I've chosen to do this level of operations to focus with the Form Ds and try to make the movements as realistic as possible. And everybody, you know, there is some comments out there who said, you know, you shouldn't stress about it, you know, just it's your layout, run it the way you want. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I am doing my own thing, but I kind of want to still keep the flavor of the prototype. I want to stick with Conrail's operations on the Southern Secondary and the Freehold Secondary, because I'm kind of doing this as a tribute to the railroaders who went out there every day, you know, all inclements of weather, all times of the year, and made those maneuvers. You know, they're walking through the snow, they were in the rain making the deliveries, and so I kind of want to keep that flavor, you know, kind of pay a tribute to them. So kind of that's why I'm really focusing on making sure that I'm making all these maneuvers properly, and I'm using the Form Ds and following the NORAC rules. So, you know, it's just that's my thing. That's what I've chose to do. So, okay, so let's get going with the SA-31 and go over our paperwork. Okay, so the SA-31 has been on duty now for 3.5 hours. They progressed down, they had to leave some cars over in Englishtown, and then they just brought what they needed down into Freehold. So let's go over the Form D. The Form D is C109. It is 2 C&E of number 8228, the SA-31. We have a temporary speed restriction, so circle line 1 on the Sayrehurst Secondary, single track, between milepost 5 and milepost 5.6, we have a speed restriction of 15 miles an hour, and the speed signs were not displayed. Circle line 2, operate in both directions on single track between Browns and Toth. Dispatcher is JD, and time effective was 17:43. So now that we have our Form D all filled out, or it's already active, because we've, like I said, we did some work down in Englishtown, and the train's ready to head into Freehold to do the work. So let's go over our switch list for the work that we have to do in Freehold. So we're going to be dropping off a covered hopper and a tank car over at Prestone. We're going to be dropping off 2 box cars at Freehold Lumber, and we're going to be dropping out 2 box cars over on the team track for the Brickman. Then we're also going to be picking up a covered hopper and 2 tank cars out of Prestone. We're going to be picking up 2 center beam cars and 3 box cars out of Freehold Lumber, and we're going to be picking up 3 empty box cars over on the team track. Okay, so we're going to pull on down into Freehold, and in the first maneuver we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a runaround because all these spur lines are facing in the opposite direction, so we're going to be doing reversing moves. Okay, so the first move we're going to make is we're going to back up and we're going to drop the 2 box cars for the team track on the main, and then we're going to work on press stone. Okay, so we've picked up the 2 tank cars and the 2 covered hoppers from Prestone. We dropped the 1 tank and the covered hopper. So I'm going to go ahead and get caught up on my paperwork and update the switch list. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take care of the car cards now. Okay, so now for our next move, we're going to go ahead and service the Freehold Lumber. We're going to pick up all the empties, and we'll drop the 2 loaded box cars. Alright, so now that we got the box cars taken care of, we'll pick up these I-beams. These I-beams are marked as empty, but I'm still working on the loads, so we'll just have to simulate that they're empty. Okay, so now we've gone ahead and switched out the lumberyard in Freehold, so now we're going to go ahead and update our paperwork, mark off that we set out our box cars and that we picked up our center beams and our 3 box cars. So now I'm going to go ahead and start switching the team track. Alright, so we're going to pull up here and we're going to pick up the 3 empties on the team track. Okay, so we've made all our movements now. We got all our cars around, so we're going to go ahead and update our paperwork. I'm also going to go ahead and get caught up on our waybills. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and reassemble our train and get ready to move back towards Browns. Okay, so there we go. That's the SA-31. Now, we're only working half the train because we're only working the Freehold section of the SA-31. There would have been a second section over there in Englishtown, but because we haven't had it constructed yet, for obvious reasons, we're not going to run that section. So now the train's all turned. It's ready to head back to Browns. All the paperwork's in order. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and terminate this session here. So the SA-31 went a lot easier than some of the other trains because all the industries, the spur lines happen to be facing in the same direction. So there was no having to do runarounds and switch directions. So that's kind of why it went a little quicker. I think we were at 3 hours on the fast clock. So the termination on the Form D would have been I think it was 10:34 in the PM. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run SA-31 back to Browns Yard, and I'm going to terminate our session. So what I'll do now is I'll go through, I'll turn all the waybills, then I'll start setting up for the next session. So that's pretty much how it's going to work. Okay, so now that we got the operation videos done for you, you know, still look in the future as I can work it in. I'm going to work in other videos of different trains running. You know, going over the operations. I kind of like this format, and I think everybody else enjoys it too. But now it's time to get back to work. I got the bug. I want to get rolling here. So, next video, episode 17. I'm changing up the order. Episode 17, I'm actually going to show you the construction and the operations of the Southern Secondary Staging Yard, because I got a lot of stuff going on with that, and I think it's very vital to my operations here. If this works right, it's going to pull it off, and it's going to look really good. If it doesn't work the way I'm expecting it to come out, then you know we're going to have to go back and rethink some things. So I kind of want to walk you through that so you guys can follow along. So episode 17, Southern Secondary Staging Yard, and then we're going to go to episode 18, and that's going to be the SA operators panel. And I got parts on order. All the parts for Southern Secondary Staging Yard is in. So I'm ready to get rolling on that. And I'm going to start ordering parts now for the SA control panel. So with that being said, it's time to go back to work. Okay, so before we go our separate ways, one last thing. This is on a personal note. So this video, operating the SA-31, I want to dedicate this to my coworker and good friend, Fred Wacker. Freddie Wacker passed away on Saturday the 19th. He was a great man. He was a great person to work with, and he was a family man, but he was also supportive of my hobby. He always asked questions. He watched some of the videos from time to time, and it's a little ironic that as we're videotaping this and finishing up filming after his passing, probably a week before he passed, he told me that he was down in Jamesburg and he saw the SA-31 going through Jamesburg, and that he caught his eye and he was watching it. So, you know, I'm going to miss you, Freddie, and thanks for all your support.